Aristotle's Rhetoric stands as one of the foundational texts in the study of persuasion, communication, and public discourse. Written in the 4th century BCE, this treatise remains vital not only for students of philosophy and communication, but also for politicians, legal professionals, writers, and anyone interested in the art of influencing human behavior through speech. While rhetoric was already a significant discipline in ancient Greece, pioneered by sophists like Gorgias and Isocrates, Aristotle systematized it, grounding rhetorical practice in logic and ethical reasoning. This essay explores Aristotle's rhetoric in depth, covering its historical context, the philosophical underpinnings of rhetoric as a counterpart to dialectic, the 3 modes of persuasion, ethos, pathos, logos, the types of rhetorical speech, the concept of enthymon, style, and the lasting significance of Aristotle's contribution. Historical and philosophical context. Aristotle, 384 to 322 BCE, a student of Plato and tutor to Alexander the Great, composed Rhetoric during his later years while teaching at the Lyceum in Athens. The work is divided into 3 books, each dealing with different aspects of the rhetorical process. Unlike Plato, who regarded rhetoric with suspicion, particularly in dialogues like Gorgias and Phaedrus, Aristotle saw rhetoric not as a tool for manipulation, but as a vital counterpart to dialectic. While dialectic seeks truth through structured argumentation, rhetoric seeks persuasion in specific contexts, especially when certainty is elusive. In Book 1, Aristotle writes that rhetoric is the counterpart of dialectic. Both disciplines deal with arguments, but where dialectic is about rigorous logic applicable to all people at all times, rhetoric is about probable reasoning aimed at specific audiences. Rhetoric operates in the realm of civic life, politics, law, and public deliberation, where decisions must be made despite uncertainty. Therefore, rhetoric for Aristotle is an essential part of practical wisdom, phronesis, connecting logic, ethics, and psychology. The definition of rhetoric. Aristotle defines rhetoric as the faculty of observing in any given case the available means of persuasion. This definition highlights several key components. 1. Faculty. Rhetoric is a skill or capacity, not just a set of techniques. 2. Observing. It is analytical, requiring discernment rather than rote memorization. 3. Any given case. Rhetoric is situational. It depends on context. 4. Means of persuasion. The goal is to influence beliefs or actions. This approach distinguishes Aristotle's understanding from earlier sophists who emphasized style, emotional appeal, and performance over substance. The 3 modes of persuasion. Ethos, pathos, logos. Aristotle famously identifies 3 primary appeals a speaker can use to persuade an audience. 1. Ethos, character. Ethos refers to the credibility or ethical character of the speaker. Aristotle insists that audiences are more likely to be persuaded if they perceive the speaker as trustworthy, intelligent, and morally upright. Ethos is not simply reputation, but is constructed in the act of speaking. The speaker must demonstrate arete, virtue or excellence, phronesis, practical wisdom, eunoia, goodwill toward the audience. A speaker who embodies these qualities earns the audience's trust, making persuasion more effective. Pathos, emotion. Pathos involves appealing to the audience's emotions. Aristotle provides a detailed analysis of emotions, such as anger, pity, fear, and shame, explaining what causes them and how speakers can evoke them to strengthen their arguments. While emotional appeal can be powerful, Aristotle warns that it must be used ethically and with rational justification. The use of pathos requires an understanding of the audience's psychology. It is not enough to arouse feelings. The speaker must direct those emotions toward a rational judgment aligned with the speech's goals. 3. Logos, reason. Logos is the appeal to logic or reason. Aristotle emphasizes that logical arguments are the backbone of rhetoric. This includes both inductive reasoning, example-based argument, and deductive reasoning, enthymeme. The strength of logos lies in its ability to make the audience feel that the conclusion is not only plausible, but necessary. Unlike the strict syllogism used in dialectic, the enthymeme is the rhetorical version of deduction. It is an argument where one premise is implicit, relying on the audience to fill in the gap. This involvement enhances persuasion, as people are more convinced by conclusions they arrive at themselves. Let me do kinds of rhetorical speech. Aristotle identifies 3 species of rhetoric, each corresponding to a different context and audience. 1. Deliberative, Political rhetoric. Deliberative rhetoric is concerned with the future and focuses on exhortation or dissuasion. Its goal is to influence decisions about policies or actions that will affect the community. The central issue is expediency, what is good or harmful for the polis. Examples include legislative debates, town meetings, or political campaigns. Appeals to ethos and logos are particularly important here, as the speaker must appear trustworthy and present logical arguments for or against a course of action. 2. Forensic judicial rhetoric. Forensic rhetoric deals with the past and focuses on accusation and defense. It is used in courts and legal settings where the speaker attempts to establish guilt or innocence based on evidence and testimony. The central issue is justice. Here, logos plays a dominant role, though pathos can be influential when addressing a jury's sympathies. Aristotle devotes significant attention to legal topics such as laws, motives, witnesses, and types of evidence. Epideictic, ceremonial rhetoric. Epideictic rhetoric focuses on the present and aims to praise or blame. It is used in ceremonial contexts, funeral orations, encomiums, commemorative speeches, and seeks to reinforce communal values. The goal is not persuasion in the strict sense, but affirmation of shared ideals. Pathos and ethos are most prominent in this mode. The speaker appeals to collective emotion and establishes moral authority to elevate or denounce an individual's character. The enthymeme and example forms of proof. Aristotle divides artistic proofs, pistes, into two types. 1. Enthymeme. The enthymeme is the central tool of rhetorical logic. It is a truncated syllogism where one or more premises are assumed or left unstated. For example, major premise, all people desire justice. Minor premise, this law promotes justice. Conclusion, therefore people should support this law. In practice, a speaker might say only, this law promotes justice, so of course the people will support it. The audience supplies the missing premise. Enthymemes are powerful because they require audience participation, fostering a sense of agreement and internalization. 2. Examples, paradigmata. Examples are inductive arguments that illustrate a general principle. Aristotle divides them into historical examples, facts, and invented examples, fables, analogies. Like the enthymeme, examples serve to connect abstract principles with concrete realities. Topoi, topics of invention. Aristotle introduces the concept of topoi, or commonplaces, which are general lines of argument that can be applied across subjects. These topoi serve as mental prompts to help speakers generate content. Examples include arguments from opposites, if X causes harm, not X brings benefit, arguments from cause and effect, arguments from definition, arguments from analogy. Topoi provide a framework for invention, the process of developing arguments, and are essential tools for rhetorical analysis. In Book 3, Aristotle turns to matters of style. While earlier rhetoricians emphasized florid language and ornamentation, Aristotle advises moderation and clarity. Good style must be clear. Words should be easy to understand and appropriate to the subject. Appropriate. Style must suit the context, audience, and speaker's ethos. Elevated. Language should be dignified but not pompous. Aristotle discusses metaphor as the most useful stylistic device. Metaphors help explain the unfamiliar by comparing it to the familiar, thereby making abstract concepts accessible. He also emphasizes rhythm in prose, especially the use of periodic sentence structure, sentences that have a beginning, middle, and end, producing a sense of completeness and polish. Delivery, hypoxis. Though Aristotle treats delivery briefly and with some distaste, he acknowledges its importance. Delivery includes tone of voice, gestures, facial expressions, and pace, all aspects of orality that impact persuasion. Aristotle sees delivery as the element that can turn an average argument into a powerful performance, especially in oral cultures like ancient Greece. He warns, however, that over-reliance on theatricality can degrade the rational essence of rhetoric and edge into mere spectacle. Ethical dimensions of rhetoric. A key contribution of Aristotle is his insistence that rhetoric must be used ethically. He argues that rhetoric is morally neutral. It can be used for good or ill. So, it is the character of the speaker and the purpose of the discourse that determine its value. A just cause, poorly argued, can lose to an unjust cause artfully presented. Therefore, Aristotle believes it is necessary for virtuous people to master rhetoric to defend truth effectively. Unlike the sophists who sold rhetorical skill to the highest bidder, Aristotle envisions the rhetorician as a citizen engaged in the pursuit of the good and the just, criticism and influence. Aristotle's rhetoric has been both celebrated and critiqued. Some modern scholars have challenged his emphasis on logic over emotion or performance. Others argue that his view of audience psychology is outdated. However, his tripartite model, ethos, pathos, logos, remains foundational in communication theory, advertising, political speechwriting, and legal argumentation. Rhetoric profoundly influenced Roman rhetoricians like Cicero and Quintilian, Renaissance scholars like Erasmus, and modern theorists including Kenneth Burke and Chaim Perelman. It continues to be a core text in rhetoric and composition courses around the world. Conclusion. Aristotle's Rhetoric is a masterwork of philosophical clarity, practical instruction, and psychological insight. By systematizing rhetoric as a discipline rooted in logic, ethics, and human psychology, Aristotle elevated it from the realm of manipulative trickery to a vital tool of civic life and rational persuasion. Its core elements, ethos, pathos, and logos, the species of rhetoric, the enthymeme, and stylistic guidelines, form a comprehensive framework that continues to inform how we communicate, argue, and influence. In a world inundated with information, Aristotle's vision of rhetoric as a reasoned and ethical art remains more relevant than ever.